It is really the psychology, you know, and the mindset which ultimately creates your fortunes as a salesperson. My first job was in Xerox. I had an outstanding manager, sales manager, and I was the only MBA, graduate. I think there were two MBA graduates that joined Xerox in selling. I had my own reasons to take up a selling profession rather than joining consulting firms and Unilever, Citibank kind of companies. And I was trying to sell Xerox machines to this mining company. I was based in Bangalore. It's a city in the south of India. And I was given a territory, and I was called a territory manager. And I was trying to sell this Xerox machine to this particular mining company. I went there maybe 8 or 9 times, and every time this general manager of procurement, he said, "Karthik, the Xerox machines are so expensive." He's saying, you guys are 100% more expensive than Ricoh. There were competitors like Canon that actually had better machines. They were smaller machines, and those machines were half the price. And in my opinion, the quality was actually even sometimes better. Now, he was saying I can buy 2 units of Canon for this price. And so I was getting frustrated every time I went there. And I did demos, I did all kinds of things, and then it was like banging my head against the wall. So my sales manager said, "So Karthik, how's this company doing?" I told him, "Look here, I don't think we can ever sell a Xerox machine to this company." So he was a brilliant salesperson. He's the best salesperson I've ever met. So he said, "Not a problem, Karthik. See, you're fairly new, and let's meet up for beer." I had, I think, 2 bottles of beer, and he's a big drinker. I think he had some maybe 4 or 5. And then suddenly asked me this question, "Why do you think we hired you, Karthik?" And suddenly the conversation became very serious. I said, "Wow, this is getting very serious." So I was a little scared. I was wondering, hey, maybe am I going to get fired or what? He said, "Look here, have you noticed one thing? You're the most qualified guy in this entire office. And you make very complex presentations. And I've seen your presentations, they're very impressive, And you said something today, this morning. You said this company will never buy a Xerox machine." He said, "I'm going to break this to you, Karthik." He said, "If all customers buy Xerox machines, we do not need a sales team. We will need a distribution team, a logistics team. And I'm going to tell you something. Selling begins only when a customer says no." When he said that, my heart stopped. And it just took my breath away. From that moment onwards, I only wanted to meet a customer who said no. When a customer said no, you know what I told myself? Now my job begins. After that, my sales just took off. See, it's not my skills that changed. What he did was he changed something inside my head. I only wanted to meet people. I was not interested in somebody who wanted to buy. I only want to meet people who said no, right? And I said, now the game begins. I said, I'm going to tackle this guy. I'm going to figure out, how to make this guy buy and what's holding this guy back, and so on and so forth. So that was, it was a dramatic year for me. I not just hit my targets. I was taken on some foreign trips. We have something called Grand Slam. It was an award. I made it to that team. Of Grand Slam winners, and then there was another award called the Director's Challenge. I also qualified for that. The bottom line was this. He very profoundly changed something inside me. So this to me is the single biggest lesson I've learned. And every time somebody says something cannot be done, I come alive. So it is really the psychology, and the mindset which ultimately creates your fortunes as a salesperson. It's not just the skill,